So this is my video submission for the different things that I've learned in this first module of communication. One thing that I thought was really interesting was the various forms of communication and how it meets our different needs, that it's more than just meeting needs at a practical level and at a social level, but also that it really meets our identity and our physical needs as well. I like the point that just talked about, especially with physical needs, how when people are sick or just having a rough time, how it's so important to have such a big support system. I know it's very true in my life, and it's really cool to see not only that that's confirmed, and that is a thing, but that's so applicable for everyone. Something else that I've noticed that it talked a lot about in the book was just the failure to communicate and how important communication is in relationships and professional aspects and all aspects like this. I know for me, whenever I'm having issues with friends or with professional relationships or anything, it's almost always a failure of communication. So I think it's so important to learn about the different methods and, hey, this is a good way to be doing this, and you probably shouldn't be doing this because this isn't as effective. I think one method of communication that's so important is just the idea of being sure you are in communication with someone. While it did talk about that not always talking, is that sometimes it's okay to have moments of not talking and things like that, but it's just very important to make sure you are communicating with other people, keeping in touch, letting them know what's going on. Let's see. Communication also varies with every individual. So, like I'd been saying earlier, just from a professional aspect, you speak to your boss differently than you would talk to a friend versus how you would talk to a professor, and just touching on that. I think self-disclosure was one that was really an interesting topic to me. Just the different ways that we disclose ourselves, how the context is so varied, how our honesty and the depth, the availability of information, as well as our context, how it just varies with different people that we communicate with. It talks about how important self-disclosure is, and how it's just very therapeutic, and it's so good for you to make sure you're doing that with certain people. I think for myself, I'm very quick to want to hold back and not self-disclose as much with others, but I know that once I finally do and I'm able to get that out in the open with friends that I know really care about me, then I just do feel so much better, and it's so important to make sure we have those relationships in our lives to be able to self-disclose. It's also interesting just how we act so different in different situations of communication. Like I'd been saying earlier, just with different people, how we speak and communicate with them differently, and just how we truly do act different. I know that when I was in high school, I used to act very different at school versus when I would come home from school and be with my family. Even now when I'm visiting family, it's funny to see how me and my sister are so different, where in my sister's friend group, she's much more outgoing and loud and crazy, and in my friend group, I'm a little quieter. But when we're at home, the situations are pretty reversed. I'm the more outgoing child, and she's a lot more quiet and reserved. So it's just funny to see how those communication, just how they vary based on who you're around. I also know, for example, when I'm at work, I'm a much different person than I'm with my friends. When I'm at work, I'm there to do a job, kind of stay quiet, stay to myself a little more, try to be friendly, but I'm not one to go make plans and be super involved with everything going on at work. But then when I'm with my friends, I'm ready to go and have fun and be loud and crazy and just really be myself with them. The Johari window model was really interesting. I'm really glad that we got to do an assignment on that, so that way we could learn a little bit more about what it meant. I was kind of wondering how with the 4 different boxes, if the goal of them is to be all the same size, if it's better to be leaning in one direction or another, or if it's just everybody's different and there's not really a right or wrong way to do that. But it's cool how there's the open, the blind, the hidden, and the unknown areas. I think the unknown area was one that was really interesting that we don't really think too much about, that there's some things that I don't know about myself that nobody knows about me. I think that the blind area is kind of scary, just that there are things about you that other people are noticing that you don't notice about yourself. It almost makes me think of if you have bad breath or something, that everyone else around you is aware of it, but you're not, and that's kind of intimidating. And then one of the last things was just talking a lot about empathy and everything. I'm currently a psychology major, and I'm double majoring in family, youth, and community sciences, and so obviously communication is just very important for the profession that I plan on going into. While I don't know exactly what field I'm going into, I'm looking at doing something with therapy, working with families or specifically youth. And so being able to have empathy for their situations is so important in what I want to be doing in the future. So that's really neat to start to get ideas of this now, and just how communication is so important and the varied ways to do that. So I've really enjoyed what we're learning so far. I think it's really neat to be able to apply these concepts to our lives and to also think about the future and going ahead and how we're going to apply them that way. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.